In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Photograph Like a Thief by Glyn Dewis, published by Rocky Nook. Now, as I've said before on this channel, my book reviews are the least watched thing and the thing least likely for the YouTube algorithm to push out to a wider audience. If you think they are pointless, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs down. And if you think they are worthwhile, I would really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up. Now, on to the book review. Photograph Like a Thief by Glyn Dewis. It is a very unusual title, I'm sure you will agree. The subtitle, I think, is meant to give you more of a hint about what it's about, using imitation and inspiration to create great images. Now, this is an interesting book. Glyn Dewis and I are very different photographers. I came to photography through photography. I feel from reading the book, it's fair to say that Glyn came to photography from post-processing. I think he was a Photoshop retoucher before he was really into photography. And I think that shows in our different ways of approaching things. And I think I really learned something from Glyn because of that. It's always worth, in my opinion, trying to learn things from people who are different to you, which is one of the reasons why I watch landscape photography channels on YouTube when I have no real interest in doing landscape photography. But anyway, on to the book. Now, the premise of the book, Photograph Like a Thief, is a really good one. And what Glyn means by this is, and he explains it in the book, is if somebody was learning to play the guitar, nobody would have a problem with them learning to play a classic song or learning the back catalogue of their favourite band. But for some strange reason in photography, if somebody is learning to be a photographer, we look down on somebody for imitating somebody else's style. Yet, Glyn's point is that when you're learning to be a guitarist, nobody expects you to come up with an original composition straight away. By learning to play somebody else's work, you really do learn how they constructed it and how to hone your own skills. And it argues that the same is true of photographers, that you should look to, especially in the early days of your career, imitate the work of other people. Not to put that out as commercial work, not to put that out necessarily to say, wow, look how great I am and try to complain some originality from it, but simply as a learning exercise. Now, this jumps back to something a little while ago. As part of the 5-day deal last year, or the year before, I got the Joel Grimes, The Artist series, which is a video tutorial session. And Joel talks all the time about the importance of personal projects in growth as a photographer and how that most of his paid work and his commercial success has come from expanding his range during his personal work. And I think this is very much the case of Glyn is thinking the same way. And in fact, the foreword of this book is by Joel Grimes. Now, within the book, Glyn, who's clearly a post-processing kind of guy, is very skilled in Photoshop, etc., sets out some projects for us. The projects are based around the idea of imitating somebody else's photographs. So this is later in the book. So he takes you through a few projects that he's done. So he's done an Annie Leibovitz-inspired project, an internet-inspired project, a Joey Lawrence-inspired project, or Joey L as he goes by, some World War II stuff, action movie-inspired, stuff inspired by Nick Brandt. For my Pentaxons out there, I'm sure you know that Nick Brandt at least used to shoot on Pentax medium format, and movie poster inspired. Basically, find something you like, be inspired by it, try to recreate it. And Glyn will talk you through in the book how he deconstructs a photo, how he looks at a photograph by somebody else, and first of all, he takes it apart trying to work out what the lighting was, then he takes it apart to work out what the post-processing was, or how to achieve that look. And he talks you through how to do that. It's fairly helpful book in that regard if you haven't really thought about these things before. So as I said, Glyn is into post-processing, and he's very skilled at it. And in the beginning of the book, he does take you through some core techniques that he uses for post-processing. And I'm already using one of those, to be fair, on virtually every portrait that I do at the moment. Whether I continue to use it or not, only time will tell, but it is very good. It is a very good process. You don't have to follow Glyn's projects, and I probably won't, to be honest. His techniques have been really useful, but what it has inspired me to do is create my own projects, and not be embarrassed about using somebody else's work as inspiration and trying to imitate it. I think he's right. As long as you're not trying to put it out there and say that it's an original idea or an original thought by yourself, then so what? It's a learning curve. It's about learning. It's all about education. It's quite a big book, but a lot of it is dedicated to the projects. I've taken a lot of little post-processing hints from it. My only little niggle with the book, and this did irritate me early on, but you have to accept that not everybody's going to use the same language as you, and just because one thing's stumbling you doesn't mean that the rest of the book is worthless, because it definitely isn't. It's a very good book. Glyn will frequently say that he softens the light with diffusion material. Technically speaking, I wouldn't say that's softening the light. That is removing specularity. And I know it's nitpicking, but I think that we need some sort of uniformity of language in the industry. For me, if you say you soften the light, you make the light source bigger relative to the subject, because softening the light is about softening the shadow, taking it from a rigid break off to a soft fall off. Specularity is about shininess, basically, for want of a better term. There are much better videos out there with much better explanations of the difference between hard, soft, specular, and non-specular light than anything I'm saying for you right now. This is another book by Rocky Nook. I will put a link in the description below to it on Amazon, so you can see what the price is. I'll pop it on the screen, what it is at the time of recording this video. But it's worth having a look at the publisher's website as well. They have a lot of photography books, and I'm sure you'll find something of interest. Anyway, that is Photograph Like a Thief by Glyn Dewis. Definitely worth a read. Definitely worth keeping. Very useful post-processing techniques. But more than anything, the inspirational idea of personal projects and what you can do with them.